Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Monitor Keeping Podcast. This is actually episode number 25 for us. So that's kind of exciting.
Yeah. Little mile marker there.
Absolutely. Khai, what's going on?
Yeah, a little bit of everything. So it's transition season for me mostly. But we'll get into that in a little bit. I've just kind of been doing a bit of everything customer wise for the grasshopper side of stuff, and then the monitor stuff is still pretty demanding every day, multiple times a day. I honestly got a lot going on with current babies right now and all that stuff like that, and all the adults in preparation, but we'll get into that in a minute. How about you, man?
Oh, I actually just started. Today is my first day off of 10 days. It's a little mini vacation, and it's all going to be spent basically here at home. We're not going anywhere. So I'm going to get a chance to catch up on some things. Today, was just, I got to put up an extra kind of real bright LED shop light just in the space. So a little extra light, moving some things around, extra power strips, trying to, I guess, streamline all the cords going everywhere, make it, nicer, easier to use. And so I'll be doing a lot of that kind of stuff.
Did you buy giant surge protectors, or they're just large outlet strips?
They're just large outlet strips. They have the protector on there, of course, the little flip on there. But it's just that's for now. And then I think a little later this week, I'm going to be looking into I have some ideas to make everything Wi-Fi compatible. So it might be the start of that, dipping my toes into that, so I can.
You mean plugging every single cord into one of those?
Well, yeah. So I'm looking at some bigger ones, right? So that can do multiple functions for me. Do I need it? Necessarily no, but will it save time if I can figure it out and make it work for my place? Absolutely. And that's actually what I want. A lot of times I just want eyes on. I want to be able to control the misters when I have them set up in the cages that I recently put together. Yeah. Those type of things, and the temperature. So if I could hit them with misting when I wanted to, check the temperatures, and just an overall real quick view, like little mini cameras in the cage, it would save me a lot of time and the hands-on of having to dig them up, because some of them, as soon as I enter the room, some of the Indonesian stuff just hides. So so that would save some some running around when one of them runs out of the cage, runs up my arm, something like that, and now I'm done for 2 hours while I try to trap this thing in a corner and put it back in the cage. So I'm looking forward to that kind of stuff. It's just kind of intimidating if you don't have the time, but now I got this little mini vacation. So yeah, I mean, I sent you the pics. I just made a post about it too, but I fished the 2 younger Dorianus up, and I'm so happy. I mean, I think the last couple episodes I've been saying, kind of took a kick to the shins on the project with some things going left and right on me. But now it's been, I think, a solid 6 weeks or so. The young ones are growing great. The other one I got from you, doing great. Honestly, a real personable monitor. It's kind of freaking me out.
He's nice.
I still go, oh, yeah, super nice.
That's a good thing. So that way, basically, when we need to later on, his better behavior is kind of like, it's easier to have a male nice, because then he responds a lot better. But if a male's really mean, he can basically, instead of, like, if the female's the aggressor, okay, that's typically okay, because she's on the defense and stuff like that. But if he's also aggressive as well, and rather than just kind of being like, oh, all right, whatever, I'm going my way, right, it'll be just a big fight.
So I think what I'll do for now with this project is make sure of the sexes, watch them grow up a little bit more, and depending on what I have, add. I want to say I'm leaning towards 2.1 right now.
Are they together? The younger guys?
The younger ones are, yeah. So I'm watching that real closely just to make sure I'm more than happy with their growth. They both look great. They are out together now. They'll stay out and watch me for a little bit. If I come too close to the cage, they dart off in their corners. But
Yeah.
it's those little steps that I'm seeing. Okay, they stayed out this time. As soon as I throw food in there, I can shut the door and they come out looking to investigate where the food is. So I think that will progress to staying out when they know food's around, seeing what I
Yeah.
have,
And
and
then try to tongue feed them or stuff like that.
yeah,
That's what I do is if they're really really wary, I try to starve them a little bit for like maybe a few days or a week or something like that. And then when I do try to go and feed them, they're basically so hungry that they just charge the tongs anyways.
yeah,
And then that kind of like breaks in the whole they kind of breaks the ice a little bit when they're wary about taking the tongs from taking the food from the tongs or not. Yeah, that's
yep,
what I do with a lot of them. A lot of my guys now are just like, all right, you don't want to eat, we'll just hang off a little bit, see if you'll hit the tongs in a few days or something like that. And then they kind of get used to the behavior. When I have the tongs, it's like it means feeding time for everybody.
yeah,
Mm.
yeah.
Well,
So other than that, there's just I'm raising up the two clutches of Ackies that hatch. There's another one going to hatch at the end of this month, along with
you're bringing
um,
all those to Pomona, right?
oh yeah, maybe. So I'm trying to figure it out. See if I can realistically make it work, and
Well,
get down there with
as far as making it down there.
yeah, yeah. So some of them they already have homes. It's just getting them out there. So next week I'll be shipping off some stuff. It'll be the last time I ship for the year. Um, and so we're waiting on basically going to make sure the temperatures are good. Now I'm pretty confident in Aki's going anywhere. They're pretty robust, so um, I'm not too worried about things. But I'm not also shipping in freezing temperatures either. So
Yeah,
um,
it's like borderline. It's not
yeah,
exactly freezing, but it's like 50s and 60s and 40s, right?
right.
Yeah.
And then if I do go and end up getting the table and everything, or sharing one with you, or I mean, that stuff we'll still talk about if it happens.
Yeah.
There's
Uh, we
all the
technically
baby
just
pythons too.
we just booked our stuff. So I guess
Oh, you did?
yeah, we literally just did it like a couple hours ago.
Okay.
Um so I mean, I guess you'd have to do the whole um negative positive thing or whatever, and then
The COVID
yeah,
stuff.
just let us know. You probably only really need like half a table, right? Or some slot spaces, or you looking at
Barely, yeah. So I mean, it's just the baby Ackies and then some baby
yeah,
pythons that are,
I'm pretty sure we'd have all that space.
yeah,
Yeah,
maybe
so
some geckos, but we'll see how that. We kind of like keeping the gargoyle geckos. They're kind of fun, so it should have a couple more, but they'd be real young, and then the morning geckos. Um, so that's kind of it over here. I will the well, we'll see how the sand monitors go. They should be hatching out right around the end of the month, beginning of January.
yeah,
I can already see the pattern and coloration on them through the egg. So hopefully that all goes good. I lost a good portion of that clutch, so the three remaining eggs, they might stay with me. I don't know. I'm still going back and forth on if I'm ready to keep some holdbacks for that project and go into the future with because I have the let's see I have one pair that's now they're the high percentage crosses that are I want to say they're probably about 3 years old now or coming up on 3 years, where the other two are they are coming up on 10 years,
oh, wow,
so or they might no that they're coming up on 10 years. So just to protect the project a little bit, protect myself a little bit with what I want to do. Maybe I'll hold these three back and see
yeah,
where that goes. So, yeah, and then all the Indo stuff that came in, all the tree monitors are doing good. It's time, I think, to kind of change them out of the quarantine setups that I have, which I'll use for some other things. Some are just going to remain open for quarantine setups. And even though I just finished putting all these cages together
Yeah.
to put them into what I envision for them for some adult cages. Now, a real easy quick fix for me would be just connecting two of these cages together because that would actually be plenty of space. So that's an idea I'm messing around with as well. Um, but we'll see. We'll see. I think that's something I'll have to figure out this week along with everything else. But other than that, man, um, things are yeah, things are going
Yeah.
pretty good. I'm excited. I feel like I'm right at, even though it's winter, I'm at that decision making spot where I can either cool things down and what we've talked about a little bit and just let them ride through the winter along with some of the pythons. It would be real easy to do, just cool the whole room down, except for where I have the Indonesian stuff upstairs, um, and try that out with the whole collection for the first time.
Yeah, man, you should.
Or
It'd be worth it because you'd have to wait a whole another year to make this decision again.
Yeah, that's true.
So
That's
might as well
true.
try it now. I mean, if it's not going to hurt you now, you basically just don't fight the winter. Maybe turn one bulb off, or only have the lamps on for so long. Feed a lot less, and then carry them for what until at least February,
Yeah. I,
at least the end of February. That way, you give them a good 3 months almost. That's what I would do. That's what I'm planning to do basically now. I guess we can get into that too, where um, with my stuff, I'm actually at that transition right now where I'm planning to cut my lights back some more, go from my normal 14, 12-hour days to only 8 and 10 hours, right? And then my lamps are basically, they're still all the same. I might have moved the 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 basking spot a little closer, something like that, to allow
mhm.
them to get a good thermal gradient when they're um, when they're trying to bask. But there's not a whole lot cranking in most of the enclosures right now. We're still at 70 something in the day, almost even 80s in the day for some of the days. We now are
Yeah.
getting into the 60s in the daytime, so that'll start to change and flow as well. So with the monitor stuff, it's a little bit different this year. I do have some lamps still on, and they they carry the enclosure and without overheating it. So when the lamps are off, it still makes sure the enclosure is about 70, 75, even 80 degrees, right? I'm
Yeah.
not trying to have it drop too low. But the surface temperature on the floor where the monitors can go to and get down to is a good 70 degrees, pretty constant. And this is their cool spot to basically escape the heat if they want to, or go there and relax or whatever. And that's their chill period. So I'm doing that a little bit different this year, where most of my cages before were sitting on dollies, and
Hmm.
basically I'd be losing the 4 inches or so, and but at the same time the cages weren't so cold. Um, Last year during the time that I was really trying to focus on cooling the cages down some more, that was my biggest issue. Was even if the cages weren't as hot, the floor of the cages were barely getting to like 70. So
Oh yeah.
I want to try to achieve 65 and 60 without an issue. See if that will help benefit their chill period. I already know that they can handle 65, for part of the night or whatever. But I'm trying to want to carry it down a little bit cooler, maybe just 60 degrees rather than bouncing between 60 and 70 too often.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to be strict with that temperature. Um, See, all the cages are on the floor. All the basking lamps are kind of still the same. They're nothing crazy. I still use the soft white BR30s rather than some of the PAR 38s. I do have the PAR 38s for the really big 4 foot monitors because those other bulbs don't do a whole lot on what I'm trying to achieve, right? But
Yeah.
all the little guys can handle a single bulb, and so I got a little bit. I'm trying two things right now, and they're overlapping because I took advantage of the last summer. So
Mhm.
it might sound conflicting to some people, but I follow a northern and a southern hemisphere breeding pattern, or however you want to call it, for all of my monitor lizards. It really just depends on what's what, and who's been going already, and then who I think can go through the whole process. So some of the normal animals that have been breeding for me already, I'm kind of keeping them on the same pace because that's what's working for them. I don't really want to change it up too much, right? So
Yeah.
for example, my mangrove monitors, Varanus indicus, Solomon Island type, they've been breeding for me pretty consistently. So I'm actually just going to continue my normal northern hemisphere cool down, where I've taken them all winter and basically just gave them a chill. So what I did last year was from mid December or almost late December, all up until March, right? So I took even
Hmm.
full of March. So December, January, February, and March. So technically 3.5 months was pretty relaxed and pretty chill. So they very little eating, very little major heat to bask. They did have availability to bask, but everything was just taken down to a major taper. And then now, uh, my results have been great all year. I've had maybe a clutch every 60 days. Her going through the process every 60 days, almost on point. Whether or not I get fertile clutches or partial fertile clutches or full fertile clutches, as long as I know that's her regimen and that's how she's been going, and that's what I've been able to do. So, with a lot of other people that have been following my process, or other people that I've worked with as well, like um, like Cody, or what's her? I believe her name is Leanne, right?
Hmm.
And with the Savannah monitors, basically, I encourage them to cool them down and give them a period where it's a lot less food, a lot less heat, and their animals basically went months and months in breeding without a problem. And I was also doing that and honing that better with my animals, and so I was able to do some of that with them this last year. And I got pretty good mangrove clutches out of there. Probably hatched good, maybe, I don't know, almost 10, give or take, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of hiccup eggs along the way, but that's all part of my growth process. So it's okay. But now I have animals that aren't breeding, that are they haven't been in captivity for that long, right? So some of my stuff have been in captivity for 7, 10 years, but I also have stuff that have only been in captivity for 2 years. So they
Hmm.
may not be used to the northern hemisphere stuff yet. And so what I've done is take advantage of this last summer, barely feed them, barely do a whole lot, kind of keep them drier. Essentially just not feed a couple of them a ton. And what I did is take them down to a taper where they look almost so skinny that they look anorexic in some views, but they have just enough tone on them.
Yeah.
I took them down to that skinny, not anorexic, but where you're seeing hip bones and stuff like that. But you're definitely seeing very very little body fat.
Yeah.
And when they're going through the whole process, I've had a female lay 2 clutches, right? Yeah, 2 clutches now, where I think it was every 60 days from summer till now, um, has been pretty successful. Now, even though I goofed up on one of the clutches, basically left it in a nest bin, didn't realize that it was there already, right? Because the indicus basically never show that they're gravid. They just dump eggs or have to nest
Yeah.
all of a sudden. Yeah, so I wasn't aware of it. So I put another girl in the cage. She pulls out one of the eggs and starts eating it. And so I realized there's eggs in
Oi.
there. And pull
Oi.
out that egg. Yeah, pull out that egg. That female that laid those eggs are going at it again with another male, and so um, I basically have another clutch laid, but the eggs weren't too great. I'm not sure. I think I might have because I moved them or something like that, but basically the I've only got one good viable egg from all of that. So which is better than nothing, and
Oh
getting a
yeah.
better read of my animals. So I have 2 or 3 more females that are. I'm trying to get them to go through the whatever right now. One female, not so much. I just moved them into that cage a month or 2 ago, so I'm not expecting a whole lot. I have another really young female, which I call Little Nine. She has like a little yellow 9 on her. That female is basically getting fattened up and growing more now. And then I have Lauren, which is
Yeah.
with a male now, and so I just
Good. Good.
hoping to see some stuff. And I just want to
A
see if
whole lot of us are hoping to see some stuff from Lauren.
yeah, I just want to get some other stuff going as far as different colored indicus, or more so of
Yeah.
I want to just trigger them to breed.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, that's my biggest thing right now, is to actually get them to lay again and figure them out some more. I've been doing a lot of cage rotations, and although it is great to keep some of the lizards alive, um, nobody is really adjusted right now.
Yeah.
Kind of like everybody's in a new spot, because I've had to rotate a lot of cages. Animals have had to move. My males, they're so used to that, right? So they'll go and play musical cages from one female to the next, and then they go into a loner cage because everybody's either gravid or I think they're gravid, and then he can't be with them, right? Um, and so my males are so used to that, but the girls are so honed in on the nest bin and what's right and what they're used to already, that moving them into another enclosure, I probably should be waiting a while before I
Mm.
try anything. Let them get really, really accustomed to the nest again, and the nest bin or the laying options. And I actually have, it's weird, right? I did all this in-floor heating in some of my cages,
Nice.
or more so of, I mean, not so nice, but um, they
That's,
the Kimberleys, it works great. The
yeah.
Kimberleys are perfect, actually. Um, but the mangroves and the position the thing is in, I have this like PVC sheet, right, and it encases a thing, and um, they still prefer to do more, or they seem to do better with the nest bins. I think
Okay.
they're still not accustomed to my open floor. They're able to just dig from the top, and they don't have to go into a nest bin. They're not used to that yet. They're used to that
Yeah.
all being open to core, where they can kind of go wherever, right? But the nest bin is a lot more secure, and so I think that's what they might have like. They like that encapsulated feel, right?
Hmm.
What they're nesting. So yeah, I had a female that was basically just digging and digging and digging and just digging and digging and digging, and then nothing, and then I put a nest bin in there, and lo and behold. So I have to really test these theories back and forth. Luckily, my animals are pretty easy to work with. I have some that are, um, I'd say, super tractable on all the information that I'm able to see from them.
Good.
Um, yeah, it's just a crazy transition period right now. I'm really trying to decide what to do. Some of the animals are a lot chiller. Like I have like Big Ermius, he gets to be really chill right now, and he's just kind of getting fat, just feeding him. But then I have some other guys that are essentially going right now because it's their season right now. So
Yeah.
I'm kind of stuck in between both things. I kind of just clear that up right now in my brain because I realized that's what I've been doing on purpose. All my Kimberleys are all shut down. I basically have um, tapered down on their food a lot. They're gonna breed a lot sooner. They typically already want to breed in January and February rather than waiting till the full March and April. So
Right.
um, probably just
See that
gonna take it easy on them, and then
that's some of the hang up I have with the Australian stuff is from the experience already that January, February they start breeding.
yeah, they're already
So
ready to go. Yeah,
Yeah, so cooling them down, keeping them down. I wonder how it's going to affect them, and because
Shoot.
that's kind of their normal pattern.
Yeah.
So
All I know is that it gives them a break. So I think regardless, they're gonna follow the weather. They're gonna
yeah,
follow, you know, how much food they're given too.
true.
I've been super strict on some of the food that I give them. So my Kimberleys have probably only been eating about 2 to 3 times a week, and it's like the meal that they can just have, rather than
Right,
having a ton of stuff. And
right.
so that's pretty consistent with them. I am. Um, it sucks because I'm not that cold yet in temperature. So with still being 70s and 80s, even just last week, we won't even be getting until the 60s and 50s until next week and the following into December.
Woo-hoo.
So
I'm there now. My highs this last week have just about been 70, but some of these nights have been like 39 already.
yeah, I
So
saw that. I saw
it's
that. So you guys are getting that chill already. Where we're
yeah,
kind of waiting for it. We've been getting this warm fog every night, so it's not like it's a super cold fog, and I'm waking up in the morning without the shivers, and so
yeah,
it's not that bad. But I'm waiting for the weather to kind of play and affect a little bit, at least be what I'd say just more chilly. Yeah,
hmm,
more chilly. There are the Kimberleys. I've also moved in front of the window rather than being on top of another hot monitor cage. So that's a benefit. While they still get to have a residual heat going into the nest bin. So I guess anybody that's listening now, my nest bins never change. They're always there. So even in my cool time, because I don't know what's going on within her reproductive cycle and all that stuff like that. If she might just be
yeah,
able to do stuff on her own without me doing stuff and manipulating it, and just it's a wrench. It's one of those things where this part of science is going to trick you, or these monitors will trick you. And so my nest bins never are lacking. They're never lacking heat. They're never lacking the density and moisture and all that stuff like that. They're actually hooked up all the time. So that's, if you want to section that off, that's a part of my optimum range of temperatures at the bottom. And so that keeps part of the enclosure 80 still, because the nest bin has to stay 80. So it still radiates a little bit of heat. But being in front of the window, it now makes the ambient temperature a lot chillier. And
hmm,
so I get to still benefit from that. And it's still saving my monitor, still prepared for a nest or and it, for eggs to be laid just in case. I'm never just, I'm gonna cool them down and strip them of everything. That's not really it at all. Everything is still there. I'm just taking down the heat a little bit, feeding a lot less humidity goes in. I still make sure they drink. Drinking is very key during this period because you need to make sure they're drinking.
yeah,
But yeah, it's not. I'm not doing a whole lot of stripping of all the cage stuff and things like that. I actually make sure that those are all in line and where they're going to sleep, and make sure they're not sleeping in it too. I try not to. There's a thing where people think that the nest bin is also the all time hide. Not all the time. The nest bin is sometimes just the nest bin.
right.
It's strategically for that alone. So you see
Right.
monitors rarely ever go back there. They have a whole different place where they're going to sleep at. That's where it should differentiate. Sometimes we're wrong too, and they end up just resting in there a lot. So, um, but yeah, man,
Options.
it's a lot of there's a lot going on here, and I got one more week roughly before I really play it in, and I even told myself, like, all right, mid December, it really starts to change. So I'm gonna really tap in on that, make sure that I'm paying attention to what's going on, and then looking at the weather. It is mid December when the weather starts to be 60s and 50s and stuff
Hmm.
like that. So um, my diet will then change a whole lot. So I'm getting in as much as I can as far as food now. Everybody's eating just about every day, every other day. as far as the ones that are going to be going under. So that's part of the Kimberleys, part of the mangroves. They'll basically be resting.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I similar things going on now. Some of it's natural just because the temperatures, of course, drop. So there's always been that going on. But yeah, with the collection growing and now different animals from different places, it gets kind of interesting on where to put everything because not only the monitors, but trying to match them up with the snakes in the collection too, who can do what. And I think there's a lot to getting some of these, especially wild caught animals, on a system, on a change in the seasons. What do we refer to that as? Seasonal. You say northern and southern hemisphere, but
Yeah, it's basically a change in everything. It's a change in
right,
weather and
getting that to flip because I have a pair of wild caught carpet pythons, IJs, and they didn't eat all summer. The temperatures were perfect in my mind, but they didn't eat all summer. Now that things are cooling down, they're eating. So they're still flipped on the old schedule or the southern hemisphere type of schedule. So I can see now I've had them for a little while now, so I can see how it takes some time, especially for adults, to adjust to something new. So for the people out there that are listening to that, if you're getting into a new project, be sure that you're willing to commit the time to it because you might need a good 2, 3,
years.
maybe even 4 years to get them to flip on their own schedule.
Yeah.
Or you fight your own temperatures and you set them
Yeah.
up in a way where you provide that for them.
Yeah.
So yeah,
The
just
reason why we say 2 to 4 years is because you have to go through so many months in one season. So, and sometimes you're not trying to pump them all year, and they do need a break. So in that break time, take advantage of it if you can. For me, I try to just, all right, it's cool time. Everybody obviously is wanting food, but I'm not going to be feeding you. They still get to bath, they still get to do stuff. It's just, yeah, definitely not as much food. So if you can be strict on that part, because they're going to want to eat still, they're going to want to do stuff, and you just be really strict on that for the next 3 months. See if you can get that to change on them.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then to touch on something else, we were talking about. I was talking with Khai today before we started the show. We've seen some different animals in the Indicus family come in, different what seemed like locations or locales, a little bit different looks or different areas for some of these. I mean, the Indicus family is still big, and he's
Yeah.
probably needs a little more definition to what's what. But we're talking mangroves, peach throats, Dorianus.
Yeah.
Uh,
All
what
kind
else
of
would you? Yeah, tricolors. What
a
else
lot of
falls
stuff
in?
has been coming in, a lot of rare indicus stuff. Not just mangroves, but like peach throats of I think it's Wago locality. It's kind of
Mm-hmm.
like a silver spot peach throat, but instead of having the silver spots, um, you have more of yellow. It's freckled yellow coloring. It's a lot different than the normal type of peach that we get in, which is still 3 or 4 different localities that come in. You don't really just
Yeah.
get one. Um, you know, the odd Dorianus we've seen over the last couple of years. The melanistic in mangroves that have been kind of coming in. I think there's a couple in the country now. Um, let's see here. I did have one in my possession, but it wasn't mine. It was just here to see how it would adapt with everything. To be honest, that thing was more scared than I've seen a mangrove monitor in a long time. Um, I think it's just what it's been through, you know.
Yeah.
And then when it's here, basically it. I think it got scared of everything that's going on in my room, right? And then I have a lot of foot traffic from just
That's
me
tough.
doing stuff in there, right? And um, it was only wanting to eat like once a week. So whenever I'd feed it, I'd go check it. There'd be just the food is just sitting there, dried up, rotten, or something like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a real tough one to get. For me, if they're gonna be producing here or stuff like that, it's not that I don't have time to acclimate them all. It's just it takes a lot to acclimate a monitor lizard like that. So I try to be try to really be realistic on what I can do with some of these animals, and if essentially they don't work out, it doesn't work out too well because they don't really mesh in with everything else.
Mm-hmm.
It would just be also another cage taken up when I actually need empty cages as much as possible. I
Yeah.
got a lot of rotating males, and sometimes things need to be by themselves or whatever. Um,
Yep.
Speaking of that, man, I myself am gonna have to make a decision soon on Jody, because Jody right now, what Jody is he's so good with all the girls, and he's sexually mature
Yeah.
that he can get them all to cycle. Right,
Nice.
he can get them all
That's a
to
good one to have.
right. So that's why I don't want to ever get rid of him, and he's one of my gems. Little Ermius is still a little bit too young, although he's already breeding, and I think he's helped push a couple clutches already. But it's just he's only a good almost 2 years now, so
Yeah.
he still has some more maturing to do. And I think once we get to his third year, then I think he'll be shooting more viable sperm rather than me at the adolescent stage right now. I'm guessing if he is or not. So I know by 3 years they're all ready to go. But yeah, man, I got to actually cool Jody down just once like end of December hits. Go, he's with Lauren now, and she's been eating a lot and doing her thing. Um, Basically, the 30-day mark would mean that it's gonna be enough trying, and then I'm just going to remove Jody, let him cool for January, February, March, and just kind of take it easy.
Mm-hmm.
And then just let Lauren go through the process and see if that's gonna flow for her and have her carry on. I can just feed her, and she could just lay infertile eggs or possibly a parthenogenic egg, and that's what I want.
Gotcha.
I'm okay with that parthenogenic clutch, or just the fact that she had a male in there triggering her and stuff like that. And he only is on girls when they're receptive. He's never really on them when they're not. It may be a slight dominance thing, but he's not even that dominant. Like
Yeah.
he won't just mount them just to mount them.
I'm seeing actually on that note, I'm seeing a lot of action in one of the peacock monitor cages. So I'm just trying to stay low, keep the food going. But this one male is basically courting all the females that are with him. So we'll see where that goes. But
Yeah, man. Hope so. Hope you get some clutches out.
something from that project. Come on.
Yeah.
But they are all in.
Was really bad, or
Yeah.
sort of bad this year, right? This year. Yeah,
Earlier this year. Yeah, it didn't work out. But yeah, we'll see how that goes. But on another note, I'm sure you saw the clutch of Savannah monitors that hatched here in the U.S.
I think that's Joe Lois, right? Or Jay Lois.
I think so. So congratulations to you. I think I just started maybe following him, but I did see those. So
they're slightly banded like one of his adults.
yeah, which is awesome. If you guys haven't seen it, I've seen a few pictures here and there of that adult, but it's a banded animal, which is just awesome. So congratulations on that. There's very few in the U.S. As far as captive bred Savannah monitors. So if anybody is interested out there, I would go look this guy up and maybe when he's ready. I don't know what his plans are. I never talked to him, but get in line for some of those because that would be an awesome opportunity.
Captive bred Savannahs, there is a kind of like a little cloud that hangs over them just because people are always going to be in competition with the $25 wild caught. But if anybody's really listening on just the rarity that is here in the United States, it happens, like with other countries in hatching them, but in the United States, it's maybe every few years it happens.
Yeah,
So yeah,
I would argue there's more lace monitor clutches
yeah,
that hatch than Savannah monitor
yeah,
clutches by far.
right. And it's more people trying with lace monitors than there are really
True.
trying with Savannah. So there is that price there that puts a dent in for some people. But if you think about it, it's like for that guy who just produced them, make it worth it for him. Go and you know buy one for the
Yeah.
price that he asked, or work something out with that guy. But there's a lot of people that they don't breed because the money doesn't end right.
It's true.
Doesn't go
Yeah.
right. You're losing a lot more if you've had to pay for a ton of electricity, food, space, and time with
Right.
just the upkeep. It's not even raising the babies yet, right? It's just the upkeep of the adults and the stress or whatever. Shoot, every single time I'm more stressed, the price goes up.
Yeah.
Right? The price goes up. So these guys, they deserve it. They deserve the hard work that they went through, and to be low ball for like $75 for a captive bred monitor, it's really tough. It's worth a lot more than that. And, yeah, support that. Support captive bred monitors because it's a thing where people don't not only support it, but people don't jump into breeding it is because they already see that there's
Right.
very little support behind it. Like Nile monitors has very little support behind it. There's a handful of guys with ornatus and some
Which are
Nitopicus.
crazy to me.
Right. They're actually really gorgeous monitors. I think you were showing me some pictures of some before, but
Yeah.
there's you can find some that are the same type. They just buy from the same group of babies, and either raise those up, get yourself a pair. I do think that people need to apply more than just heating and feeding to breed these African monitors because
Hmm.
they are from a continent that's a lot different than all the other ones that are on the equator or right next to the equator. So there's a lot more seasonal change and everything like that. And if people can apply what me and Linnea applied to her savannas, maybe that'll work for the Niles and stuff like that. It's a big one because we get millions or thousands of them every year, and how many make it to adulthood?
Right.
Very, very few with very little breeding aspirations and stuff like that. Don't get me wrong, there's a lot of big ones out there. If you were to have people post up, there'd be hundreds of them, but most of those are just pets. People don't have the means to care for two 6-7 foot monitors. They're not 4 or 5 foot monitors. They're big. So
Right.
that's a 10-14 foot cage if you think about it for something that's 6-7 feet. um yeah, man, there's a lot that I think people can do. The density of heat, the enclosure, they basically need to be kept like a water monitor. you know um
Yeah.
yeah, but
Which is
then
crazy.
not fed so much.
Talking to African monitors, I've never kept any of the. In fact, the only ones I've really kept are the Savannah project that I'm working on. But they are absolute fun, wonderful animals to keep. For anybody listening, I have a lot of the Australian stuff, some of the Indonesian stuff, and you stack these guys up to them, and it's like, I don't know. They kind of remind me of a T Rex. They're big old head, big old mouths, shorter tail,
Yeah,
um, stubby things, but they're awesome. They're still all monitor, um, but they're very intelligent creatures. I hate to say cute, but I'll go ahead and say cute. They are just cute. Yeah, they
that's why a
remind me of
lot of
these.
people buy them. And
Yeah,
we just got to work on a handful of people. We don't need everybody because we don't have to have everybody, but um, a handful of people that are willing to take that Nile monitor um, love to the next extreme. To
right.
actually understanding them, getting a better feel. I mean, a lot of people can get some, raise them for a few years, and maybe not have the aspirations to breed. So they kind of have put in the work, but they're not in the same pocket of goals, right? But
Hmm.
let's say if you are one of those type of people, you have a couple, you basically are growing them, raising them up to do the deed, it's quite important for you to try new things, think about new things. If you've already know people are trying this and it's not working, you kind of want to navigate what they're not doing and then try to do that. That's basically what I've done. Figure out what people don't want to do or people are what they're not doing and do
And
that.
try it out. Yeah.
Yeah, try that. So
Yeah,
uh,
it is they Niles specifically, they're so big, and the requirement for water also I think keeps a lot of people away. But I mean, they're doing it with water monitors already, so it's just like you said, a few people breaking into that, showing also what captive bred babies are capable of.
right.
Um,
You
I
could you
think
could turn a $25 lizard into a $300-400 lizard or $500 or however whatever people are willing to pay.
which I hate talking about. There's the whole just wanted to keep the animal for the appreciation of the animal and where it comes from, which is great, but without I guess for someone taking on that project to do that, there is definitely satisfaction in the work, but to also be able to sell those babies if you're successful with them for something
Yeah,
that you can put back into the project, put it back in, because these people we have families, significant others, usually other jobs, those
yeah,
type of things. So
or just
we
to
have to.
support it back.
Right.
Yeah,
Got to make it work. And even like, Savannah monitors, unfortunately, I think even if you were to breed normals, like you said, you're going to be competing against the wild caught market, which is huge. You're talking
yeah,
$5 wholesale
yeah,
lots of these things. Okay.
yeah. You buy a
So,
hundred, it's $5
right,
or something
right.
like that. Yeah,
And I mean, so in order to compete with that and to showcase and show off how great they can actually be, I unfortunately think it might require something like the albinos to come in, someone to be
yeah.
successful with it, or the pastels, or the different orange undertones, or the ivory whites that we see on some
Like
of these.
this is what I've had to kind of deal with because I have the mangrove monitors. It almost falls into the same category as them. A
Right,
cheap
right.
imported monitor that it might cost a little bit more, but still you can sometimes find one for 75, $150, right? Which
Yeah,
is an essentially a cheaper monitor. I've with confidence standing behind what I'm doing, try to do what I've just said earlier. I turned a $50 monitor imported. Right, you buy six, they're only $50. Okay, um, on Bushmaster or wherever you want to look, they're quite cheap. So you turn that into what I'm charging now, which is several $100s for one. Right now, we're not talking about money here. What I'm talking about is even if it's a hype or it's a growth in popularity or whatever, I've taken people's appreciation and understanding for these lizards and turned it up a notch. More and more people are into them. More and more people understand them. There's no longer such a oh man, these things are such horrible captives because they can be. The mangrove stuff are basically too flighty, too shy, nails are crazy, shit everywhere, bite all the time. They're basically don't make the greatest of captives sometimes, right?
hmm
So what I've did is just basically show people what I can do with them, have people understand them more, and then now there's more and more of an ask for them or more of a demand for them. And if you've
right,
seen some of the prices that people are quoting for mangroves nowadays is somewhat up there, a little higher than what it used to be.
right.
That $1, 150 or barely $200, and it's not just because of me, but it's now that there's a set price for wild caught stuff, people are going to charge more. People are going to scam other people, going to lie to them, tell them it's captive bred, stuff like that, or people just want to make more just because they realize how much someone can make on captive bred stuff.
Right.
Which there's a lot of work, and I basically have a price that I think is fair, but it's not only is it one of one because I'm one of one in America right now, or very few of me, right? And so the scarcity or rarity adds to that. just the fact that it's captive bred is added to the price of the typical $200, so it goes up and then goes up higher. The how tame it is or how pretty they'll be, higher, all that stuff adds to the price.
Mm-hmm.
What I think as far as, all right, these are implications that are what I'm going to tally on. If, just if they're B grade animals, you get a B grade price, right? Stuff like
Right.
that. So it's almost the same type of deal where these animals are polished, they're clean, they're captive bred, they're hand feeding, they're imprinted. They grow up to be perfect size, not too big, not too small. They look at them. I have examples of the adults, things like that, and you basically have to do the due diligence.
Yeah.
Where some of you I think see my online presence. Um, I'm basically currently always in the groups as well, not promoting myself. Don't get me wrong. I'm not promoting myself, but I'm not just saying, hey, you look at mangrove monitors, go check this out. I'm actually there helping every single person that is at my feet or at my doorstep or however you want to say it. But that's how I'm promoting these monitors. It's not me showing you a YouTube and being like somebody else. I'm actually putting the work in with every single
Right.
person that is with me.
It's
Um,
educating. You're building your own
yeah,
market around you just by bringing a
right,
spotlight to what
right.
they
And
are.
so hopefully, people can understand that's what you have to do with black roughnecks and Savannah monitors and NOM monitors and Timbers monitors. And if you get an idea, all of these are monitors that are imported, not captive bred, or very rarely captive bred, and basically, end up on cheap market value, right? And then
Right.
they get pawned off somewhere or something like that. And so
Right.
it takes a lot of work, man. You got to actually do the due diligence on every single one of those aspects that I just mentioned in the last 10 minutes. It's a lot of
It's
work, man.
yeah. And for the people out there listening, yes, you can go hit up an importer or whoever they are directly selling to, and you can probably find animals for cheaper at a better price than you might find from a breeder. But understand that it comes with all the work that goes into it, the ups and downs. You might get a, I don't know, $1,500 animal if you're in that market for $900. But are you willing to also lose that animal
Yeah,
to something that's just outside of your hands?
yeah. Are
Uh,
your skills good enough to acclimate that animal? There
yeah,
I see a lot of people that buy from Joe or some other importer or like Chris or something like that, and um, basically kill the animals because they just didn't know how to acclimate them right. You know,
right.
a lot of us can do it. It's just not to say that we're better than anybody, but dang, it really demands your skill level. If
Mm-hmm.
you're not up to par with that, you may not want to be buying fresh imports. They're fresh imports. They're
Right.
slightly emaciated. You're looking at a person that is a normal person that's selling imports that they imported in, and that's the normal gig. That's what they do. But are you prepared for that? It's what did you go through this last one? Picking off ticks, dealing
Yeah.
with animals coming in perfectly healthy, keeling over,
Right.
just like that,
Yeah.
perfectly healthy. They were eating, they were doing fine. Bam, just dead,
Yep.
just dead. So those are the things that people have to prepare for. Parasites, not eating. I mean, just the fact of not eating is stressful to most people.
Mm-hmm.
So are you going to be able to sit there and then be patient with that animal, or are you going to be kind of just hasty and discard the animal because it didn't want you?
Yeah. I
Um,
have one green tree male who's still, he goes up and then he goes right back down. And then, so there was the four of them that I got, and he is the only one where it's like in a week, all of a sudden hip bones are showing again, and he lost all the weight. Um, so it's feeding him twice a day with a syringe and a little special mix,
yeah,
stuff basically, and feeding them a certain amount of well, cc's or the syringe full, whatever the measurement is, getting that into him. But now you're dealing with a stressed out, compromised animal, and now you're trying to force something down its throat. You're stressing that animal out. So whether he pulls out and makes it, I don't know. Was it a good amount of money to get into him? Yes, it was. And now, I don't know how it's going to end up with him. I'm still hopeful he's going to pull through. So I'm going to keep feeding him the way I am, and whether he likes it or not, I'm going to get his weight up. And I hate saying that, but I kind of got to take it on and make sure he's getting the
extra TLC.
Yeah, into him. And that sometimes that means hands-on, and this animal might hate me for the rest of its life because of it.
It's hours of stress and worry, and sometimes it's repetitive stress for weeks and weeks until,
right.
That thing actually kind of kicks it into gear or not,
Right. So we're going to go with the heavy meds after this. Once he gets the weight back up, go in with the heavy meds and try to knock everything out. And even then, as you know, Khai, even after, heavy medications, it's like you got to be on it after the meds kind of go out of the system or go through the system, and that can be its own complications. So,
right. So that'll be what people don't realize is that when you're pumping animals with meds, sometimes that'll keep them off their diet. That'll actually make them sometimes worse because it's kicking their butt. That's what it's doing. So if there's not a lot enough umped in the animal, which what I mean by that is the sustenance and reserves to actually carry the animal while it's while the meds are doing what it's doing, the animal's not eating, not able to drink really, so it has to have some reserves in it. So that's why we recommend before you go into the vet and you do your sample and all that stuff like that, and you get medicine, make sure the animal is somewhat hydrated and you've been given it some food that it's taken down so it can handle the pressure of the medicine.
Right. And that's where you might make it. So I guess to come back around to it. So when you had a $1,500 captive bred animal versus a $900 wild caught animal,
$3,000 animal.
Yeah, you're going to spend how much in vet bills and in medication and in time, basically watching this animal day in, day out. It's not going to be as easy as just drop the food in, drop the water in. Yeah. Animals having a good time, you're having a good time. There's a lot of stress involved, and then ultimately, are you going to lose the animal or not? And so
stress costs a lot of money, man.
It does.
Costs a lot of money. So
heartache too.
We don't want to discourage people from getting what they want or anything like that, but there's got to be a smart way you want to do it, and we don't want to set you up for failure either, because in reality, that's what we're talking about. Is you got to go through all that hardship of trying to acclimate the animal. Like my grasshoppers won't always work, or having a crazy setup is not always going to work. You actually might need to do a little bit more like what Alan's doing now, which he has to pull it out, shove a syringe in his mouth, basically kind of terrorize the animal a little bit, and then have to go through with more harder medications.
On another point, even if your setup is great, I would say mine setups are great because I've across the board for the tree monitors. These are the blues, the blacks, and the rest of the greens. It's working just great. All the other animals are doing just fine. So using that as kind of a baseline, I have one animal that's not. So it's not necessarily just if your setup is on point that the animal is going to make it in that situation. There's possibly something else going on. A stressed out animal will find a way to die, whether everything's perfect or not. So, learning, I guess my first toes in the water with this whole thing. Early on, I had some import animals, but that was almost 20 years ago now. Man, that's crazy to think about. And then there was a long break, and then with the different peacocks and Timors coming in as the first, toes in the water. Now, I will say those are actually really robust animals. They're awesome. I haven't had any,
me, right?
The ones I got from you, and then I had got two other groups, like larger groups, and then a few animals just here and there. But the larger groups were babies for the most part. But I've had nothing but a good time, with most of those. But yeah, the Dorianus, the other stuff. I in the past I had a couple peach throats. Man, they I had no business getting into those at the time. Truth be
Yeah, I
told, but
honestly don't like how flighty they are.
yeah,
Yeah, I don't
they
like how flighty the babies are. I don't know
yeah.
why. I'm not
Now
a. I like them, but I don't like them at the same time.
I had a buddy back then. He was doing decent with the peach throats. I lost touch with him. Don't know where he's at now. Been trying to find him, see if he's still doing stuff, but he's not on the radar. So I'm pretty sure he's probably not doing monitors anymore. But yeah, he was keeping a few. And now there's a guy here in Southern California, Verana guy.
Oh yeah,
He's yeah, he's got his group.
he just messaged me.
Okay,
He literally just messaged me earlier today. That's I think his name's Shane.
yeah, that's
I
him.
think his name's Shane. Yeah. So he breeds Ackies. He's got
Yep.
some pretty nice Ackies. But as far as like he has some peach throats too, and they're small. But I
Mm-hmm.
guess his female or his somewhat supposedly female is dominating the cage compared to the ones that he thinks are male. And I told him that was quite common, where a female is going to push around some of the other ones. It's not all the time, but I have females that once they're confident, they'll push themselves around for sure.
Right. And, so starting a new project, being prepared for that, you might have to separate at some point. The cage might
Yeah,
get too small. Dominant animal might decide that one of those animals doesn't need to be there, and they won't be there if that's the decision that is made. So, yeah, all those
yeah,
fun things.
it's really tricky. I'm not sure. I think mine. We've been kind of talking to a lot of people about you know like hyper aggression and stuff like that, and what to kind of pay attention to where when we just introduce them, right? But for me, that's what I'm paying attention to, right? I'm kind of here all the time, so if there's so much running around and it's not just kind of calm, casual, a little bit of jousting, a little bit, that's normal. But if it's a little bit too hectic, I pull them, right?
Yeah.
But when they're together and all of a sudden something goes wrong and you're not around, that's where keeping the mangrove stuff is really a headache, because it's hard. It's if you're not always around, and they basically can grab each other, throw each other across the cage, rip each other up, just because one is irritated with the other one.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a tough one to have. It's a tough species to work with as far as the complex goes. Every one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But at the same time, as tough as it is, that's what makes it fun too. That's part of the sickness, wanting
Yeah.
to figure it out, wanting to unlock it, and show what
Yeah.
they're capable of. I think we all have that dream of not only acclimating the animals we get to work with, but what are their babies going to be like, and what are their babies going to be like, and not only with color, maybe if you're breeding for pattern or color, but also with tractability, and um, you're separating them, with each generation from the wild, um, and you're training the captives to eat certain foods, to eat a certain way, to basically be
Yeah.
captives. They don't know anything else. But in captivity, that's awesome. You might get to, it's that little bit of interaction with a beautiful animal that you would never get to interact without the wild, unless it was probably a bad situation. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, yeah, it kind of interesting. That could be a whole nother argument or another show we could do about all that stuff. But I know we're going to keep this one short. So, Kai, was there anything else out there that you wanted to touch on?
I couldn't think about it right now. I kind of went over a fair amount of stuff. I'm done for the season, so it's not a whole lot. I think I have maybe one more Kimberly egg to go and hatch.
Yeah,
Just one more, and this should be due anytime soon. So I'm gonna go and fidget with the egg a little bit and see if I can get it to come out on its own. But
nice.
yeah, Some of the eggs I don't write the date on. I just throw them in the incubator so I forget.
I keep
Uh,
track by my Instagram posts for some of them. I'm like, what day did I
yes,
post them? All
same.
right.
That's what I do too. I'm like, all right, that's it's around that date. So let
Uh-huh.
me go back a little bit. Yeah, it's a great way to determine stuff. But man, sometimes when you got a lot going on, it's like I just threw this egg into the thing. It was dug up, and I was like, all right, it's good. The egg looks great. Let's see here, the Kai Island stuff. Since this podcast, I've been able to kind of clarify more on what I want to do, just because I was able to talk it out and figure out what's what. So Jody's got a 30 day rendezvous a little bit, and then he's gonna come out and gonna go by himself for a little while.
Yeah.
And then he's gonna take a chill for at least a few months because he's been actually on the ball with like multiple females for all year ever since March. So um, yeah, he's gonna take a little break. Hopefully, the other animals that I got going will be fine. Yeah, man, there's a lot of adjusting because I have this new 8 foot enclosure in. That
Mm-hmm.
thing's been not hard to heat because I'm not even trying to heat it that well yet. I'm letting it. I'm learning it,
Mm-hmm.
learning the cage as it's cool. If it's too hot, I don't get to realize what it's like when my house is. It's that's because
Right.
I'm fighting the heat.
Yeah.
So right now he's getting able to bass for several hours of the night, and then his cage goes back to 75 degrees, and so that does work against my humidity a little bit. So I have to adjust with that. Might have to add a heat pad at the big old dog mat
Yeah.
that I have. Yeah, I have to bury that and utilize that. I've taken those out since because I've have the different nesting options now, but I think I
Mm-hmm.
have to put it back in for wintertime. Um, yeah, not the whole bottom is cold, although a lot of it is on the floor, or all of it's on the floor, right? But some of it's heated. There's section of it that's not. I think I want to build the humidity up a little bit more. Dude, I've been buying thermometers and they've just been getting canned, man. They end up in the
Crapping out
water.
on you.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
just the monitors do it. It's
Oh
like
yeah.
they destroy them. They shit all on them or rip them off the mantle that I have them on, or they'll throw them in the water. Yeah, they
See,
just
I think the way to go, if the ones I'm looking at, because I was talking about wireless stuff and having, so they're basically like these little Bluetooth temperature gauges that talk to the computer. Um, they look durable. They're made for outdoor. So they should be waterproof. Um, and then I can actually screw them, hook them onto a screw, so they should be pretty durable. Um, We'll see. We'll see. Because, like you said, monitors find a way. But if they work, great. Now they're only going to work for me for where I put them directly. So I got to mess around with those ideas a little bit. But I
yeah.
hear you. Those little Zoom Ed ones, the ones especially with the humidity gauge. Oh
Oh
man,
no,
those.
I have the ones the Accurite from Home Depot. So
Okay.
I buy like quite a bit of them, probably like $100 worth every few months. I buy like 8 or 9 or something like
Yeah.
that. They're like 7 or $10 or something. And they typically work pretty well. I have them scattered all over my room, every single level, just so I can get an idea on what the temperatures are. And yeah, man, it's just got to work around it, I guess. So
We need to get one of those Alibaba shipments. Get an account with them and buy 100 of them. Buy a pallet of them. Get them over here. Uh, it's
you're gonna
funny.
store at
I've
your
looked at.
house.
Yeah. Oh, talking about that kind of stuff though. The Grant's shop up here, GX3. They're carrying a lot of their own. They're going right to the manufacturers and getting a lot of their own bulbs, whether it's ceramic heat emitters, deep heat projectors, just heat
Oh
bulbs
yeah,
in
I saw
general.
that. I
Yeah.
saw that.
Oh, it's so nice, especially the um, fixtures that you can screw with a little bracket into the top that's set at, I don't know, 2 inches or 3 inches away from the top of the cage and just screw into the socket. He's selling those. It's so nice now because I can just go run over there, grab what I need, and I don't have to worry about finding some stuff on Amazon anymore, worrying about who's in or out. I can just kind of, I went and bought a bunch of them just to have them. I think I'm not even going to use half of them, but it left a little scar on me, going looking for something and not being able to find it. So I'm turning into a hoarder.
Yeah, man, I have a ton of light bulbs just for that purpose. I literally buy like hundreds, and they're like strategically shoved underneath and in between everything because there's no place to put 100 light bulbs.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
I feel you on that one.
shoved everywhere. All right, man. I gotta get to going because I gotta take Lynn somewhere in about 40 minutes.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, we can.
All right, let's
get off
close
this
it
one,
out.
yeah?
Yep. Khai, where can they find you? Where can people find you? Look at your stuff.
They can find me mostly on Facebook and Instagram. On Facebook, it's just Khai Fan, Khai Fan, Phan. And then on Instagram is big underscore lizard 103. You're probably able to find me other places too, like on YouTube and stuff like that. You should be able to either just type in my name and find me, or look up Mangrove Mecca. That's Mangrove, and then Mecca is Mecca. And yeah, you should be able to find me on many other social medias as well underneath any of those. You, man?
You can find me on Instagram at origins underscore reptile. Check out the page there. Check out the animals, and then Origins Reptile on Facebook. You can also always find us here on the Monitor Keeping podcast. We're part of the Morelia Python Radio Network. And always a big thanks to Eric over there doing all the work he does to get these different podcasts out. Great bunch of guys, great bunch of hosts. If you're not familiar with it, go check out their website, MoreliaPythonRadio.net. Radio Network, it might be network.net. Type in Morelia Python Radio, you will find them. I promise you that. And check out all the different podcasts that are there. Pretty much anything you're into, they have, or they're going to point you in the right direction. Other than that, yeah, I guess let's close it out. Number 25.